Hey everyone, it's Jack, and today I'm going to take a look at Storm OS. Storm OS is an Arch-based Linux distro that's developed by Ben Fitzpatrick, plus a host of great contributors. And so I'm out at the Storm OS website right now, and also I got the link in the description below if you want to get your own copy, which I highly recommend already. So Storm OS is a distro that I took a look at about a year ago and thought it was pretty darn impressive. And the latest update was released on March 17th, which was just yesterday, as of the time of this video. Here at the webpage, it gives us a little bit of info here, and Storm OS is a Linux distro developed by Ben Fitzpatrick and his contributors such as Silent Robot, Seeker, Razor 1981, and TJ Wolf. And these guys are, I can tell, a really great combination. They just work together really nice. Also, Storm OS comes pre-installed with Steam, Discord, Wine, Lutris, GIMP, LibreOffice, Zoom, and much more. And I can't wait to see what that is. So I'm going to jump over here. At the top of the page, we got a download link. And if we go over here, we have the latest versions available both from SourceForge or from Google Drive. So you can take your pick on your favorite and then grab a copy. I grabbed a copy of Xfce, which happens to be the developer's favorite desktop. And by coincidence, it's my favorite desktop too. So let's check it out and see what it's like. So here I am out at the boot screen, and so here I'm just going to go with the first option, and we're just going to boot right into this guy. And Storm OS has a lot of much needed updates according to the developer, plus they added a nice new welcome screen in here. So this is the live version, and I'm going to just pop right in and maybe do a quick install on it. I believe it's got the Calamares installer, if I remember right, from my last review. And there's the Storm OS welcome screen, very nice. And our installer pops right up. I'm just going to change my resolution real quick, just so we have a nice full screen here. We're going to make that 1920 by 1080 and apply it. That's better. And we'll keep that. Great. And wow, this looks nice right off the bat. Really impressed. I love the theming on this already. And it looks like it's got the Dracula theme here on the live version. From the looks of this icon here and the style up here in the window, I like it. That's my kind of theme. So I'm going to hit next. And then next. So we got our region okay. And then here, our default keyboard is automatically selected, which is great. I'm just going to erase disk and let it replace everything. Give it a username and a password. And I think I'm just going to go with that. But it also has an option here to require strong passwords. I like that. There's a lot of situations where you really should use a strong password, especially when you're in some kind of work environment where you might have to have some syntax requirements for your passwords that you need to meet. And so that is nice. I like to see that extra option in there. So that was a nice touch. I'm going to go here and wow, check this out. So here we can add additional apps, and I like this. This is cool. This is one of the things that I like to see, is when you get options like this here right at the installer. So here we can kind of tailor our install just the way we want it. Very nice. So under apps, in addition to default apps that get installed automatically, we can also add other things. We can add in Wine, and that's something I would definitely add in on mine. If I was going to install this for my own machine, I would add in Wine here. And we got options for Lutris and Steam, so if you're a gamer, that can open up a lot more possibilities for playing Windows games as well. And then we got TeamViewer, which is nice. That's another thing that's great to have easy access to. Chromium, and I'm going to add Chromium in there for our web browser. Flameshot, that's a screen capture. Could add that in there too. It may already have one in there by default, but I'll just pop that in. Transmission is a BitTorrent client. And then we got our NVIDIA packages. So if you're using an NVIDIA video card, it would be a good idea to just check the main box here for your NVIDIA packages, and then kernels. So you can specify a different kernel or an additional one to have on here. You can go with the LTS, Zen, NVIDIA, hardened. So really nice here too. And by default, of course, it's going to use the latest kernel that's available, being that this is Arch based. And then we'll just go ahead and hit next and install. And then we'll say install now. And really like the installer. I love the fact that it made it very simple to add in extra Storm OS packages there. So nothing complicated, and gave you some more options that you could choose from without having to go through a whole involved process. So particularly impressed with that. I like that. So I'm going to let this install. This should only take a few minutes, and then I'll be right back. All right, the install is complete. So I'm going to go ahead and hit restart, and let's check out, see how this went. Okay, so far so good. Looks like we're getting a boot screen here. So we ought to be into our login screen shortly. There we go. Looks like everything went great. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to choose my username up here, and then just type in my password. And here we are in our desktop, and I am liking it. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and change my resolution real quick. Hit my display settings. (1920 by 1080), apply and keep. All right, so here we go. Beautiful, really nice looking here. So here's our welcome screen. Then our package managers come up to let us know there's some updates available. And then I'm gonna shrink down here in this corner so I'm not in the way all the time. So great, this looks super. So we got our welcome screen. Storm OS installer normal, visit the site, our debug version for the installer, and Storm OS README. So the welcome screen looks like we don't really need it anymore since we're already installed. So I'm just going to exit out of here. And overall look is nice. I don't see a background here, so I'm just going to right click and jump into desktop settings and see what we got for our wallpaper. I remember in my last review last year, to see the background, the folder's not really selected by default. So if we just click on Other here, all we got to do is select the Storm OS folder and then hit Open, and all your backgrounds will appear. Easy peasy. And so then we can set something, and really beautiful looking wallpapers here. I am liking these, and this is cool. Let me take a look at that. Wow, that's cool. That kind of goes with the name Storm OS. And then we have a branded wallpaper here. Very cool. And another branded, and then we have Storm. And I'm liking that. I think maybe I'll go with that. There's really so many great candidates. Very cool. I like the Saturn superimposed over the clouds like that. That's really neat. That could potentially be a view from Titan. Cool. And there's a great cityscape view there. I think I'm going to go with that one. It's got the lightning bolt. Nice. Great color. And it seems to work for me anyway, the dark theme here. And I also noticed the weather app is on here right by default. Another impressive thing. I love having the weather app down in the Xfce panel. Xfce, in my opinion, has the best weather app available. Their widget is really fantastic. And so here it's showing by default Louisville, Kentucky. And that's not where I'm from, but that's okay. We'll just kind of leave it there. However, if you want to change it for your area, easy peasy. All you have to do is go in to Properties. You can click Change and it'll automatically detect it, and boom, you're there. Or you can manually enter in your zip code, or you can change your time zone to your time zone and it'll probably auto-detect it as well. So I'm liking the weather app. Very nice. And also, just an FYI, when you go into Properties, if you want the temperature to display down there at the same time, you can simply go into scroll box, and then from this drop-down list, just select temperature, and then click add, and then the temperature will show up right down there. And then if you want it to scroll between other details as well, like your wind speed and so forth, humidity, and all this other stuff, you can also select other items in there and add it, and then it will just kind of scroll. Personally, I just like having one thing there, just the temperature, but that's how you do that. Nice. And then over here we got our mail notifications. Very cool. So if you like having a mail client, then this will be something really handy, because then you can see your email coming in. And that's something I've never seen before. So I like that feature as well. And then we have our update notification here in the bar. And I'm just going to let those update. And I love the color scheme. We got the violet colored button there. That's very cool. I got to see what this is. I suspect it's Dracula, because of the icon up there. I recognize that as a Dracula icon. So I'm going to check that out shortly. And then here we got our network icon, of course, audio. And it looks like VLC player is installed by default as well. Very cool. And then our computer power settings, notifications, and our clock here with the calendar. Excellent. And then in the middle, we have our icons here that are open. And then at the end, we have some pinned applications to the taskbar, just the things I would pin. So I like that they got Firefox and the terminal pinned by default. And then also we got their Thunar file manager. And then, of course, our Whisker menu. Nice. So this is looking good. And we got our categories here. And one thing I always do on the Whisker menu is just a personal thing. I like to go into properties and then jump over here to behavior and let it switch categories by hovering. So I'm going to just check that. And so now if we come back here, they'll change with the hover. And looks like we got rounded icons. That's cool. And if you like a grid look, which is something I kind of like, we can go over here and like make our icon for applications normal and then show as icons. And then you get more kind of a grid look. And then I like to expand this out a little bit. To me, that just gives it kind of a cooler look. So yeah, there's a little tweak there, just for fun. You can never learn how to do too many things. So let's take a look at some of the apps while this is updating. And one of the things I'm going to do first, actually, is I'm going to go here in our settings and just look at the appearance for a minute. I'm curious as to the theme, because the theme is really beautiful. I love the default. And it is Dracula. Great. Okay. So we got the Dracula theme along with the icons. Very cool. And it looks like our updates are finished. And they recommend a restart. So I'm just going to let it restart, I think, and then be right back. Okay, that was a very fast restart. And I like that the background theme kind of carried over into my login window. So that's pretty cool too. So just going to log in. And we're back. So we had some kernel level libraries most likely that were installed there, which is one reason the restart was recommended, but you weren't forced. So nice. And I'm going to open up our home folder here. We're very consistent with the Dracula theme. Got our dark folders here with a dark background. And so I think Dracula was a great choice for Storm OS because it all kind of works with the name and the whole theme with the storm. And I always like the violet accents that you get here. There's a few other styles here, like the Adwaita Dark. So if you just like a different style, or so Adwaita or Adwaita Dark, then you got other styles to choose from. But I like the Dracula. I think their default theme is perfect, and I wouldn't actually want to touch a thing there. And under icons, if you like different icons, for some reason you didn't like the darker ones, then here under icons, you could change to Adwaita or Elementary, or of course you could just run out to xfce-look.org and find a whole variety of new icon sets or themes that you can download from. Personally, I like the Dracula, so I'm going to stick with that. And let's see what kind of apps came with this. So here's our all apps, and then accessories. We got our app finder, bulk renamer, which is really handy if you want to bulk rename a bunch of stuff. Screenshot. We got a planner app. Very nice. I like that. This is a place where you can plan out and set projects or tasks. You can make yourself a to-do list. And it looks like one of the new things I added in were sub-projects. So you can do that as well. And there's even an option where you can synchronize this online with to-do list. I think it's .com. But out at to-do list, you can create an account out there and then just kind of synchronize your to-do list, and you always have it available across different devices, which is really nice. Otherwise, you can do it offline, hitting start up here locally, and then you can just add in your different tasks, and you can tag them here with your own kind of categories. So that is quite nice. And so if I was going to create a task for today, I could just click add project, and we'd make it a new project and just give it a color. And then click plus, and then all I gotta do is add something in here like finish my video. And then just add the task in there. And then we got our task. And then when I finish my video, all I gotta do is just check this box and it'll disappear because it's all done. And of course, you can just keep adding tasks in here, and you can also add subtasks in there too, like click stop on record. So anyways, when you click the box there, then it'll delete it and take out your task, showing you that your task is completed. So that's kind of how you would go down your list when you have a task list built up. Pretty handy app there, I think. And also a Storm OS system tool, USB image writer. So that's handy. Really like having access to a USB image writer for sure, especially because I'm always burning images and making bootable disks. So let's see Storm OS, our configuration tool here. So here we got our gaming all-in-one installer. Wow. And we also got disable auto start. I think that might be maybe the welcome screen, but I'm not sure. But let's take a look at this all-in-one installer. So here we can install Steam, Heroic Launcher, Lutris, and Proton GE. So these are all great if you want to play Windows games on Linux. This is a nice, easy way to do it. And you probably remember seeing the Steam and Lutris options and so forth during the install when you installed it. And I didn't select any of those, but if I would have regretted that, this gives me easy access to pop those on right from here. Very nice. So those are all kind of preset ways where you can set up these different launchers for your games. Didn't realize that was there. And then we got an icon browser under development, and understandably there's not much under development because unless you're a developer you wouldn't really have a need to install apps under there. And then we got Flameshot in our graphics. I think we installed that during the install, so that's cool. And we also got GIMP on here. Very great. And a document scanner. And since I have an all-in-one printer, that would be quite handy. And then we got our Firefox and Chromium browser. And under multimedia, our Pulse Audio volume control, Simple Screen Recorder, which is a great app. I really like Simple Screen Recorder, and it's just like the name says, it's simple. And then we got VLC Media Player. I'm liking that that's installed by default too. That's one of my favorite media players. And then there's our planner app again, a dictionary, numeric, AbiWord, and a personal organizer, Osmo. And I don't think I've seen that installed on anything before, pre-installed. That looks nice. I don't think I've ever used this. So it looks like it's got a really nice calendar app here. And then tasks again, so another area where you can add tasks and kind of get things done. And this actually looks nicer, and you have a contact list and a notes area. Very cool. So it looks like here, if you kind of do a double click, you can put a note in here. Something like that, and click it, and now it puts a little mark up there next to your date, so you know that there's something associated with that. And when I click on it, oh, I got a meeting tonight. So that's kind of a nice little way to schedule things. Very nice. So I like this. This is a pretty cool little app there. And I don't know, there might be other ways to do events too. I've never seen this app before, but it looks pretty cool. And I like that there's no Office program on here. I don't remember if I saw one during the install. I don't think so, but I like the fact that I can choose what Office app I want to put in there, because so many distros have LibreOffice by default. And that's a good Office app, but it's not always the one I want to install. So then I have to uninstall it too, and then add another one. This saves me a little trouble. I don't have to deal with it. I can just go directly into putting on my own app. Big plus. And then we got Xfce, and I don't know what that is actually. Okay, it looks like it's a downloader, so I can add a download link in here, and then it will apparently download stuff. Cool. And movie player, HPUI scan. So it's got some HP drivers on here right off the bat. And then we got a Storm Menu X. And this is something I haven't seen before. Pretty interesting. You can create a zip backup of your config local bash RC. Nice. And also the same thing with your themes, icons, background, or both. Config local bash RC icons, themes, and backgrounds. Wow, very cool. Or 5F, the whole thing. And then they have an experimental option here where you can restore directly from your backup. Very cool. And you would want to do that as a root user using sudo. And then 5G, start here for the first for Arch install of important programs to make MenuX work. And then they have an optional start here first for an Ubuntu or Debian install of important programs to make MenuX work. Cool. And then they got some Storm OS menu subsystems here. Updating mirrors, sync and update your apps, Yay update with no confirm, install a package removal, and Yay installer. Hey, nice. This is cool. I haven't seen this. I don't know if this is something new, or maybe it's just new to me. But I'm going to just try something. I'm going to try updating the mirrors. So I'm going to hit Xfce as my option and see what happens. And it's working like a charm. Wow. Okay, and that finished installing. That took about a minute, so I paused it just for a bit there. And now I'm curious. Install package. Let's see what that does. So I'm going to hit 6D. And there's our NeoFetch. Okay. So I guess maybe that's not really linked to anything. But still, I am finding that interesting. I'm going to jump back out of here. What happens if we hit 6F? So I'm thinking maybe those aren't implemented yet. Or I'm just doing something dumb. And then under settings, we have our Xfce settings here, which is most of your typical stuff. And then under system, got our add remove software, doing our file manager, task manager, gparted, htop. So let's look at some of these. I'm going to jump out of here and exit the config tool. And then I'm going to open up htop. Let's just see how our resource usage is. Wow, not bad. 653. So that's pretty nice. And that's with Thunar open. And if I close it, then we can shave off about, then it didn't make a whole lot of difference. Didn't make a whole lot of difference. So yeah, I guess Thunar is pretty good on resources, I would say. Barely even touched it. Cool. So I like the quick access to htop, and I like the fact that htop's installed by default. Very nice. And of course, we got our print settings, gparted, which is great if you're advanced and you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you can probably hose your drive and you won't think it's so great. So let's look at our package manager. I'm assuming it's probably Pamac, and I think I assumed correctly. So if we jump in here, this is our updates tabs, and then our installed apps, and then of course here where we can browse. And then up here we got our settings. So if we went into preferences, we can see our update frequency and so forth. We can set our third party if you want to enable AUR support. Typically I do, so I would hit that and enable it. And then I like moving my temp directory because I have a dual partition drive. I would move that into my home partition and just make a folder called temp there and move it there. But since this is all installed on one partition, we're just fine. I just leave it just the way it is. And I do that because on my dual partition drive, my home partition is the big area, lots of space. And so everything else, I think I would just kind of leave it the default. And it's set by default for 4 parallel downloads. If you want to add more, if you want 6 or 8 or 10, you can just beef it up there if you got a fast internet connection. If you have a slow internet connection, you want to slow it down a bit, you can make it 2 or 1 parallel download as well. I think the default's pretty good though overall for general use for everybody. So that's a good fits all setting there. And so let's just kind of install something. We got Inkscape here. And this is the version 1.1.2-2. Looks like -2 just kind of came out. And that's good because I know when I first downloaded 1.1.2, it had a little bit of a bug in it. It seemed like when I was working with fonts, it would crash the app and crash my desktop too, I think. So that is probably a fix in there most likely. I'm just going to choose that and let it install. And so the package manager is working great here. I'm going to apply that. And now it's installing. Very quick download. And then we can even launch it right from here just to see how it came out. So looking good. We'll hit save, thanks, and then just pick something. I'll just go with a video format. And then there's our Inkscape. And it's themed beautifully. That's one thing I like about the Dracula theme is when you open up another app, the theme works with it. So it looks great, and I love the purple accents there. I think that's one reason Dracula is one of my favorite themes, especially in Xfce. It just makes Xfce look beautiful, I think. And if we jump in here in our settings real quick, you can see that this is a straightforward, typical Xfce configuration settings here. So we got all the stuff here that you would expect to find in an Xfce, your display settings, mouse and touchpad, text editor, and so forth, our desktop settings, settings for our file manager. And one thing I like to do in here is I like to just jump in here and change our date format. So when you create a file today, I like it to say more than just today. I want it to say today at what time the file was created, because there's sometimes I need to go back on the same day and reference some files that I may have made, and I want to know which ones are the newest ones. So that's something I typically change right there. Everything else I pretty much like the way it is. If you like to single click to navigate instead of double click, then you can set that here, and then you'll be in single click mode, kind of like the way KDE defaults a lot for your single click. So if you like that, then you can do that here. Personally, I'm a double click person. That's just where I'm more comfortable. So that works for me. I'm just going to keep it as a default. Here's where you can tweak your windows. So if you go into Window Manager Tweak, you got your compositor settings here, and this is already set the way I like it. Typically, opacity of windows during move, I like to move it back, and it's back right where I like it. So when you move a window, you get that transparency. And the same thing when you're resizing. It'll give you transparency during resize because that's set here. So that's perfect. This is exactly how I would set it up. I like it a lot. Then here you got all these settings on the right-click menu for creating a launcher, a folder, document. Open your terminal right from here so you get quick access to it. Beautiful NeoFetch there too. And let's take a look at the NeoFetch. I kind of skipped over it before. Running the latest kernel, 5.16.15, 1201 packages, using Bash 5.1.16, XFWM4 for our window manager here, using the Dracula theme all the way across, and only around 774 megs of used memory at this time out of 4 gigs that I have assigned to this. Very good. And then of course you got open root terminal, open a folder as root, and then you got change ownership and to root or owner. So that's a nice easy access right here from the right click, so you don't have to use the console. I'm liking that. Then your folder and file search, open new window, arrange desktop icons, so here you can kind of arrange them around if you want. And then all your applications are also accessible right here in a right click, kind of like you would find in maybe OpenBox. So I like the fact that I can just right click and get to an app right here without even have to go into the menu. I always thought that was a nice feature in Xfce. And so if we go into desktop settings too, I changed the wallpaper earlier, but on top of that, we can go into our icon settings here. And here's where you can change the size of your icons if you want them bigger or smaller on your desktop. You would just tweak here and you can make them bigger and they'll grow as you go dynamically, and vice versa if you want them smaller. And by default, it was set at 48. You can also show hidden files or a single click to activate your items here. Again, like we were seeing in Thunar File Manager, you can also show your file system here if you like on the desktop, or your removable drives. I can click that and it'll show removable drives like my USB drive, which is plugged in right now, still has the Storm OS ISO on it. And then here you got your icon orientation. Of course, by default, it's up in the upper left corner, which is what most people are familiar with, but you can do it any way you want. You could have it bottom left and have it down here. You can have them go horizontal, so you could go like top left horizontal and hit arrange, and now you're kind of like the way a lot of KDE apps will put them in horizontally by default. So lots of new options here that are available that you can use for your icons. So in case you didn't know they existed, you know now. Excellent. So I gotta tell you, Storm OS, before I even say anything, it's just a double thumbs up. It's a no-brainer. This is definitely an Arch distro that I would install, and I feel like that I really wouldn't have to do much of anything as far as tweaking it, because it's already the way I like it. And I like that, you know, because there's a lot of situations where I just want to get something installed quick and just use it. Even though it's fun to customize and pimp and do all this stuff, there are situations where you just want to install it and it just works. And that's what we have here. This just works. And it looks gorgeous right off the bat. So I gotta say, Ben Fitzpatrick and your contributors, you guys did an excellent job on this release. I love it. I guess the only thing I would change is in the wallpaper, I would just probably set it up to point to the Storm OS folder by default right at the beginning. But that's really a minor thing, because like I showed in the beginning of the video, all you gotta do is click Other, and then Storm OS is in there, and you hit Open, and you're good to go. So not even a big deal to me at all. But I guess that would be the only thing I would suggest personally. Other than that, I mean, if that's the biggest thing I can find with a distro, then that says a lot for the distro. And Storm OS has really got me impressed here. And of course it's Arch, and I like Arch because that gives me access to everything I ever need as far as software goes. So I never have to worry about whether it's going to be in a repo somewhere, or if I have to go find an image and download it. That's just a non-issue with me, because you have the AUR and so forth. And that's what makes Arch really great, in my opinion. And Storm OS has really added some nice, to me it's the perfect balance of not too much software and not too little, and it's all the essential cool stuff. And the fact that you can add in more goodies during the install is another big plus. That scores extra points for Storm OS. And I thought another nice touch was the fact that the weather app was installed by default. I really like that, because that's one of the first things I do after I install an Xfce desktop, is I go down and I add a weather app. So the fact that that's already there, I think, is just over the top. And some people might think that's minor, but those little things like that, that says something about the quality of a distro. Like I said, it speaks volumes. and just an all-around great distro. So do I recommend Storm OS? Heck yeah, I do. So give it a try. If you're looking for a new distro to try out or just a secondary one to put on another laptop or computer, I highly recommend grabbing a copy of Storm OS down at their website. And with that, I hope this review was helpful. And if it was, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.